The prophecy ignored. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with voices, whispers, and quiet laughter. Bright pillars of crystal light reached the ceiling, and a long round table of silver stone held the leaders of 100 alien races. Their robes shimmered with gold, their crowns hummed with technology. They believed they were wise, powerful, and unshakable. At the far end of the chamber stood one of the oldest elders. His skin was gray and cracked, his eyes dim but steady. When he rose, the chamber grew silent for a moment. Everyone respected him, but many also thought he was too old, too strange, and too close to forgotten legends. The elder lifted his staff. His voice shook the chamber. "Listen to me," he said. "You laugh at the old records, but the truth is written in our history. Humans, the small creatures from the blue planet, they are unstoppable." A murmur spread across the room. Some of the younger council members leaned back in their seats, smiling with arrogance. Others covered their mouths to hide their laughter. One alien leader, tall with 6 arms and scales shining like emerald, slammed his hands on the table. "Unstoppable?" he said. "Elder, you are dreaming. Humans are weak. They do not have claws, they do not have fangs, they do not have wings or strong shells. Without machines, they are nothing." Another counselor, with glowing eyes and long silver hair, nodded. Their world was easy to conquer in records past. What threat could they ever bring to us now? The elder leaned forward, his voice stronger than before. "You do not understand," he said. "Humans do not win with claws or fangs. They win with their hearts, with their fire, with their refusal to bow. They suffer, they fall, but they rise again. And every time they rise stronger." The chamber burst into laughter. Some pounded the table, others shook their heads. To them, the elder was only repeating old myths, stories meant to frighten children. "Sit down, old one," said the scaled leader. "Your stories belong to the dust. This is a council of reason, not fairy tales." But the elder did not sit. His eyes glowed with something beyond age, something close to fear. "You can laugh now," he said, "but the day will come when you will see them again, and when you do, you will remember these words. Humans are unstoppable." The chamber ignored him. The sound of laughter drowned his warning. The council moved on to new matters: trade disputes, border conflicts, and plans to test young races for survival games. The elder lowered his staff slowly and sat back down, his heart heavy. He had spoken the truth, but no one wished to listen. Far away, beyond the shining city where the council ruled, a human colony struggled on the edge of survival. It was not a grand city of towers or ships. It was a rough settlement on a frozen planet, where storms cut across the land and ice cracked beneath the feet. The humans there did not know they were being watched. Hidden machines built by the council observed them day and night. Every movement was recorded, every sound stored. The council wanted proof that humans were weak, that the elder's prophecy was nothing but dust. In a small shelter made of steel and ice, a human woman named Arya worked by the dim glow of a lantern. Her hands were cracked, her breath fogged, the air. She was fixing a broken heater for her child who slept wrapped in old blankets. The storm outside howled like a living beast, trying to break into their fragile home. Arya did not give up. She tightened screws with tools made from scrap, rewired old circuits, and whispered, "Just hold on a little longer." In another part of the colony, a group of men and women pulled heavy sleds across the snow. The weight was too much, the cold was too sharp, but they pushed forward together, step by step. Their faces were pale, their lips bleeding. Yet no one turned back. The council's hidden machines recorded everything. To them, these humans were only data, fragile, desperate creatures trying to survive. But what the recordings could not show was the fire inside their hearts. Back in the grand chamber, a younger counselor reviewed the images on a glowing screen. He smiled coldly. "Look at them," he said to the others. "Pathetic. Weak. The elder's words are wasted. These creatures will never rise." But the elder, who sat quietly in the shadows, whispered to himself, "This is how it always begins. With struggle, with pain, with survival, and then, with fire. The laughter of the council echoed across the chamber. None of them saw the storm break outside the human colony. None of them saw Arya's child open his eyes as the heater roared back to life. None of them saw the humans pulling their sleds finally reach the shelter, falling to their knees but smiling through the pain. The council believed they had proven the elder wrong. But the truth, quiet and hidden, was already moving. The prophecy had been spoken. The warning had been given. And far away in the frozen dark, humanity's unstoppable spirit was already awake. First, human defiance. The storm over the frozen colony had not ended. It grew worse. The winds screamed like monsters, tearing at the shelters, shaking the walls, and pushing snow into the cracks. The humans inside the small outpost huddled close, but they did not break. Arya stood at the center of the shelter, her child wrapped in a blanket against her chest. Around her, other colonists argued in low voices. "We can't last another week," one said, his face pale. "The supply ship stopped coming, the council cut us off." "They want to see us crawl," another whispered. "Maybe if we surrender, they'll let us live." But Arya's voice was sharp, strong, louder than the storm. "No," she said. "We don't beg. We fight." Her words silenced the room. No one laughed at her. They knew she meant every word. Humans had no choice but to resist. In the council chamber miles away across the stars, alien leaders watched the struggle on great screens. The recordings from the hidden machines filled the room with images of starving humans, broken shelters, and the endless storm. The scaled leader laughed, his teeth shining. "Do you see? They are crawling already, they cannot endure." But the elder, silent in his seat, only shook his head. "You look at the surface," he said quietly. "But inside them, something is burning." The council ignored him. They believed the trial was almost over. That night, when the storm calmed for a brief moment, the humans left their shelter. Arya led them into the snow. They had sleds filled with scrap metal, broken parts, and what little fuel they had left. Their goal was not surrender, it was invention. "We can't wait for help," Arya told them. "We will build our own machines. We will use what we have. If the storm wants to kill us, then we will make it our servant." The colonists worked in the dark. Sparks lit the snow as they cut metal into pieces. Old wires were tied together with frozen fingers. Children carried small tools and supplies, refusing to stay idle. By morning, something new stood in the frozen field. It was not beautiful. It was not polished like alien machines. But it was alive. A giant wind tower, built from broken poles and ship scraps, turned slowly in the wind. Its blades creaked and groaned, but they moved. The storm's fury was caught and twisted into power. Lights flickered back to life in the colony. The heaters burned bright again. The humans had taken the weapon of nature and made it their own. The council watched in silence as the screens lit up with images of the colony glowing against the snow. "This is not possible," one counselor hissed. "They had nothing," the six-armed leader snarled. "It's luck. A single invention. Nothing more." But the elder's eyes shone with pride. "This is the first defiance," he said. "This is what you cannot crush. Give them one spark, and they will make a fire." The council was not finished. If the storm could not kill humans, then they would send something else. From orbit above the colony, a fleet of drones awoke. Sharp, metal bodies with glowing red eyes built for war and destruction. The order was simple: destroy the shelters, burn the supplies, and leave nothing alive. That evening, as humans gathered to share their first warm meal in weeks, the drones fell from the sky. A scream cut through the night. Red beams of energy struck the ice, exploding into flame. The colonists scattered, pulling children behind them. Arya grabbed a piece of broken metal and shouted, "Don't run! Fight back!" The drones moved like a storm of fireflies, but the humans refused to be prey. They hurled stones, metal rods, and even burning wood. Their weapons were small, but their courage was endless. One man leapt onto a drone, smashing its eye with a hammer. Another woman trapped one under a net of steel wires, dragging it down as others struck it with axes. The humans fought together, each protecting the other. And then, using the power from their crude wind tower, they redirected the energy lines. Sparks shot into the sky, blinding the drones. One by one, the machines crashed into the snow, broken by nothing but human fire and will. When the battle ended, the humans stood breathing hard, their faces cut, their clothes torn. But they were alive, and around their feet lay the shattered remains of the Council's weapons. The Council chamber was no longer filled with laughter. For the first time, silence hung heavy. The screens showed humans dragging the wreckage back to their shelters, not as trophies, but as parts for something new. "They're turning our machines into tools," one counselor whispered, horrified. The elder rose, his voice calm, but it carried across the chamber. "I told you," he said. "You cannot break them. Every challenge you give becomes their strength. Every weapon you send becomes their tool. This is what makes them unstoppable." The scaled leader bared his teeth but did not speak. His eyes burned with anger. But deep inside, fear began to creep. On the frozen world, Arya looked at her people, exhausted but smiling through the pain. She raised her hand over the wreckage of the drones. "This is only the beginning," she said. "They think we are weak. They think we will fall. Let them watch. Let them see." And in the shadows of the storm, the humans began building again. The trial of fire. The frozen planet grew quiet after the storm. The humans repaired their shelters, melted snow for water, and cooked food over fires made from wreckage. They were tired, bruised and scarred, but their spirit burned brighter than ever. Yet far above, in the Council's grand chamber, the laughter had returned. "They survived a storm," one counselor sneered. "They survived our drones. But what if we change the ground itself? What if we place them where no living thing can breathe?" The scaled leader leaned forward, his emerald skin glowing under the chamber's light. "Let us strip away their air. Let us drop them into a world of poison. If they are truly unstoppable, let them prove it." The elder rose, his staff trembling. "You would condemn them to fire and death? This is no test. It is cruelty." But the Council ignored him. Their decision was made. The humans had no warning. One night, while they slept under the glow of their crude wind tower, the ground shook. Strange lights covered the sky. Without explanation, the entire colony was lifted into darkness. When they awoke, the world was different. The air was thick and green, burning their lungs. The sky was covered with clouds of ash. The ground was alive with crawling creatures that hissed and dripped poison from their jaws. This was no frozen wasteland. This was a furnace of death. The humans fell too, their knees gasping. Some vomited, others fainted. Arya held her child close, covering his face with her torn scarf. Her chest burned as if fire was inside her lungs. "We can't breathe here," one man coughed. "We'll die in hours." But Arya shook her head, even as tears burned her eyes. "No, we will not die. We will adapt." Hidden machines of the Council recorded everything, sending the images back to the chamber. The Council leaned forward eagerly, waiting for the humans to fall. "Look at them choke," one alien laughed. "This will be their end," said another. But the elder whispered, "Watch closely." The humans did not surrender. With what little they had, they began to act. Using cloth, metal pipes, and the broken parts of drones they had carried, they built crude masks. They tied fabric around their mouths, soaked in water to block the poison air. Arya led the effort, her hands shaking but steady. She cut wires from wreckage, shaping small breathing devices. The sound of coughing filled the camp, but slowly, one by one, the humans began to breathe again. The children wore masks made from scraps of helmets. The adults carried heavy filters strapped to their backs. It was ugly, imperfect, but it kept them alive. The council's eyes widened as the images streamed before them. "This is impossible," the six-armed leader growled. "No species could adapt so quickly." "They are not adapting," the elder replied softly. "They are inventing." But the poisoned air was only the first challenge. The council had filled this world with predators, creatures with hard shells, dripping teeth, and venom that could kill with one bite. Their claws clicked against the rocks as they crawled toward the human camp. The ground shook with their steps. The colonists saw the beasts approaching, glowing eyes in the mist. Fear spread through the humans, but no one ran. Instead, they built. Using broken drone weapons, sharpened steel, and nets woven from wires, they created traps. They dug pits in the ground, covering them with leaves and ash. They built spears, from pipes and knives from shards of metal. When the creatures attacked, the humans fought together. Spears struck shells. Nets dragged monsters into pits. Fire burned across the poison sky as humans lit the night with torches. Arya herself stood in front holding her spear high. A creature 3 times her size charged. Its jaws opened, dripping venom, but she rolled aside, striking its eye with fire. It screamed, falling to the ground, thrashing in rage. The humans shouted as one voice, their cries echoing through the poisoned world. In the council chamber, silence fell. The screen showed humans coughing but alive, bleeding but standing, fighting against creatures meant to destroy them. One young counselor whispered, "They were supposed to break." The elder leaned on his staff. His voice was soft, but it carried like thunder. "This is their fire, this is their trial. You give them poison and they make air. You give them monsters and they make weapons. This is why I warned you. Humans are unstoppable." Back on the deadly world, the battle raged until dawn. When the sun rose, the ground was littered with the bodies of the fallen beasts. The humans, covered in dirt and blood, dragged the carcasses back to camp. They skinned the creatures for armor. They drained venom to use as weapons. They boiled the flesh to make food, bitter but life-saving. Arya stood in the middle of the camp, her face streaked with ash, her child asleep against her chest. Around her, humans smiled for the first time in days. Their bodies were weak, but their eyes burned with strength. She looked at the sky, at the invisible machines she knew were watching. "Is this what you wanted?" she whispered. "Then watch us. We will not fall. Not today, not ever." The elder's prophecy had been ignored. The council had laughed. But now, in the trial of fire, the truth was burning too bright to hide. The humans had adapted. The humans had survived. And the council's fear was only beginning. The silent uprising. The poisonous world no longer looked the same. Days turned into weeks, and the humans did not die. They built stronger masks, better weapons, and even crude shelters out of the shells of the creatures they killed. Where once there had been fear, now there was discipline. Where once there had been despair, now there was defiance. But far away, the Galactic Council did not sit in silence. Their great chamber buzzed with confusion and unease. "How are they still alive?" one counselor demanded, slamming a fist against the silver table. "We sent storms, drones, poison air, predators, yet they rise again," cried another. The scaled leader's eyes narrowed, anger burning inside. "It is only a matter of time. Push harder. Test them more. Break them before others start believing in their myth." At those words, the elder's eyes glowed with something more dangerous than anger. Hope. He looked across the chamber and spoke softly. "It is too late. The galaxy is already watching." He was right. Across the stars, whispers began to spread. In the shadows of markets and secret transmissions, alien voices murmured about humans. The recordings from the Council's trials had leaked. Smugglers carried images of humans fighting beasts, inventing air masks, and lighting fires in poisonous storms. Species long crushed under the Council's rule looked at the screens and saw something they had not felt in centuries: courage. "They survive where no one else could," whispered a traitor with glass skin. "They fight together not for glory but for each other," murmured a worker in a mining pit. "They are weak in body but strong in spirit," said a soldier, lowering his weapon. The idea spread like fire. If humans could resist, perhaps others could too. Back on the poisoned world, the humans grew stronger. Arya, once just a mother fixing heaters, now led them like a commander. She trained men and women to hunt the predators with traps and teamwork. She taught children to gather resources, to build, to think fast. Her words were simple but carried weight. Alone we fall. Together we rise. The humans listened, and they began to believe. One night, as ash clouds covered the stars, a stranger arrived at their camp. Not human, alien. His skin was pale blue, his body thin, his eyes wide with fear. He stumbled into the firelight, collapsing at their feet. The humans aimed their weapons, ready to strike, but the alien raised his trembling hands. "Please," he begged. "I bring no harm. I bring truth." Arya stepped forward, spear in hand. "Who are you? Why are you here?" "I am a worker of the council," the alien whispered. "I saw the recordings, I saw your fight, and I could not stay silent. Others feel the same. We are told you are weak. But we see the truth now. You are hope." The humans stared in silence. For the first time, someone not of their kind had crossed the council's walls to stand with them. The alien lowered his head. "I will help you, quietly, in secret. Many of us will." Back in the council chamber, cracks began to show. Some councilors whispered doubt. Others shared fear. "This is dangerous," said one, his voice low. "If word continues to spread, if others begin to follow." "They are only humans," the scaled leader snapped. "They cannot shake an empire." But his words felt empty, even to himself. The elder leaned forward, eyes burning like stars. "You laugh still, but laughter will not silence the truth. You think you are in control. Yet the moment has already begun. The humans have not only survived your trials, they have lit a fire across the galaxy." On the poisoned world, Arya listened to the alien worker share secrets, the council's plans, the machines watching them, the endless tests still waiting. The humans did not break at the news. They grew sharper. They dismantled the council's drones, learning every wire, every circuit. They built new tools, shields of steel, weapons that spat fire, crude but powerful. Arya raised one of the weapons before her people, her voice steady. "They think we are pieces on a board. They think they can move us where they want. But we are not their pieces, we are players, and we will change the game." The humans roared in agreement, their voices echoing into the poisoned night. In the markets, in the ships, in the hidden corners of the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. Entire groups of aliens began refusing orders. Small rebellions sparked in mines and factories. They carried one word on their lips like a secret flame: humans. The council grew uneasy. For the first time in centuries, they feared not an army, not a weapon, but an idea. And the elder, silent in his seat, finally allowed himself a smile. "They spoke the truth," he whispered. "Humans are unstoppable. And now the galaxy begins to see it." Arya looked at her people, her child sleeping safely at her side. The poisoned sky above was still deadly, the council's test still cruel. But in her heart she knew the truth. They were no longer just survivors. They were a spark. And sparks given time can burn empires. The shattered arena. The council chamber glowed with cold light. Anger filled the air. The scaled leader slammed his 6 fists on the silver table, his voice echoing like thunder. They spread whispers. Across the galaxy. They gained followers in shadows. This must end now. Other councilors shouted in agreement. No more trials. No more poison worlds. Put an end to the myth. The elder rose slowly, leaning on his staff. His voice was calm but heavy. "You have tried storms. You have tried starvation, poison beasts. Still they stand. Still they build. Can you not see? The more you test them, the stronger they become." But the chamber drowned his words in. First, the decision was made. The humans would be thrown into the great arena, a place where species were tested for survival before the galaxy. An impossible challenge designed for death. No race had ever left it alive. The humans were taken while they slept. Blinding light swallowed them, and when their eyes opened, they were no longer in the poisoned world. They stood in a massive pit, surrounded by walls higher than mountains. The sky was dark red, filled with smoke and fire. Towers of steel lined the edge, and beyond them, countless alien spectators filled the seats. Creatures of every shape and size watched, their eyes glowing, with hunger for blood. Arya stood at the center, her child held tightly to her chest. Around her, men and women looked up in silence. The ground beneath their feet was cracked stone, stained with the marks of battles long past. A voice roared across the arena, shaking the air. "Behold, the humans, weak, fragile, hopeless creatures." The crowd erupted in laughter. Some threw scraps of metal into the pit. Others screamed for blood. "And now," the voice continued, "they will face true warriors." Gates opened around the arena. From them marched alien soldiers, giants with armored skin, claws sharp as blades, eyes glowing with cruel fire. They carried weapons forged from the Council's finest technology. The humans were outnumbered 10-1. The crowd cheered, certain the battle would end in moments. Arya looked at her people. Their faces were pale, their hands trembling, but their eyes were sharp. She lifted her spear high and shouted, her voice cutting through the roar of the crowd. "They think this is the end. Prove them wrong. We fight not for them. We fight for us." The humans roared back, their voices rising like thunder against the walls of the arena. The battle began. Alien warriors charged, their weapons flashing. The ground shook under their steps. But the humans did not scatter. They moved together. They dodged. They struck. They trapped. Spears of metal, shields of scrap, fire lit from stolen fuel. They turned scraps into strength. A giant warrior swung his blade toward Arya. She rolled aside, striking the back of his knee. The warrior stumbled, and 3 humans leapt forward, dragging him down with ropes and stabbing until he fell silent. Another group of humans cornered a warrior near a broken pillar. Using teamwork, they pulled the pillar down, crushing the alien beneath its weight. Blood covered the arena floor, but it was not only human blood. The spectators fell silent. What was supposed to be a slaughter turned into a struggle. For every human that fell, 3 alien warriors fell beside them. For every strike against them, humans struck back twice. And then something happened that froze the entire arena. In the chaos, an alien warrior aimed his blade at Arya's child. She shielded him with her body, bracing for the strike. But before the weapon fell, another alien warrior, one of their own, moved. He pushed the child away from danger, taking the blade into his chest. He collapsed at Arya's feet, gasping. His eyes met hers, and he whispered, "They are watching. The galaxy is watching." The crowd gasped. From the seats above, murmurs spread. Why would a council warrior protect a human child? Why would an enemy lay down his life? The elder, seated in the shadows of the chamber, saw the moment and knew. The fire was spreading even here. The humans fought until the ground was soaked with blood. Their bodies shook with exhaustion, but they refused to fall. Together, they stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by the shattered bodies of alien warriors. The crowd was silent. No laughter, no jeers, only wide eyes and whispered words. Impossible. They should be dead. They fight like no other. The elder rose in the chamber above the arena. His staff struck the floor and his voice thundered across the galaxy. You have seen it with your own eyes. You have watched them stand where none should stand. They are weak in flesh, but unbreakable in spirit. You mocked the truth, but now the truth stands before you. Humans are unstoppable. The words shook the arena. Arya looked at her people, her chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. She held her child close, her spear dripping with blood. Around her, humans placed their hands on each other's shoulders, refusing to bow their heads. They were not just survivors, not just fighters. In that moment, they were something more. A force that could not be silenced, and the galaxy had witnessed it. The council divided. The great arena was silent. The alien warriors lay broken, and the humans still stood. They were covered in blood and bruises, their weapons cracked and bent, yet their eyes burned with fire. For the first time in centuries, the council chamber was filled not with laughter, but with fear. The crowd had seen it. The galaxy had seen it. Whispers carried like thunder across every world. Humans, one counselor muttered. They are not supposed to exist like this. They should have fallen, another shouted, slamming his clawed hand on the table. The scaled leader rose, fury in his emerald eyes. This is dangerous. Their survival is no miracle. It is rebellion. If we allow this fire to spread, the galaxy will burn against us. We must exterminate them. Now. But across the chamber, voices of doubt rose. No. A younger counselor said softly. You saw the way they fought. You saw how they protected even a child in the middle of war. That spirit cannot be destroyed. Others nodded. For the first time, the council was no longer united. The elder stood tall, his old staff glowing in the light. His voice shook, not with weakness, but with strength. I warned you. You laughed. You mocked. You called them weak. And yet they stand where no race has ever stood. They have survived every trial you created, and now they inspire more than themselves. They inspire the galaxy. Some counselors lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others hissed with anger. The scaled leader roared, his voice drowning out all others. Do not be fools. Do you not see what this means? If other races rise because of them, our rule ends. Our empire dies. They are a disease, and the cure is fire. Even as the council argued, rebellions began across the galaxy. In mining colonies, slaves dropped their tools and shouted the name of the humans. In markets, merchants painted crude images of human faces on walls. In hidden transmissions, the story of the arena spread faster than any order the council could give. A miner on a distant moon whispered to his children. They bled, they fought, they stood. So can we. A soldier in a forgotten outpost refused to fire on protesters, saying only, I saw the humans in the arena. I will not raise my weapon. The council's grip was slipping. Back on the poisoned world, the humans were returned to their camp. Their bodies ached, but their hearts were unbroken. Arya walked among her people, carrying her child, speaking softly to those who wept, smiling at those who looked for strength. They had survived storms. They had survived poison. They had survived monsters and warriors. And now, they survived an empire's greatest trial. But Arya knew it was not over. They will not stop, she told her people. They will come again. Stronger, crueler. But so will we. And we will not stand alone. Because now she knew the truth. The humans were no longer fighting just for themselves. They were fighting for every race that whispered their name. In the council chamber, the divide grew sharper. Half demanded extermination, half demanded peace. This is madness, shouted a counselor with wings of silver. Extermination will not silence the fire. It will only spread it further. Peace? The scaled leader snarled. With those who will destroy us. You speak of peace while they infect the galaxy with defiance? The elder raised his staff, striking the floor with a sound that silenced the chamber. You speak of infection. I speak of truth. You rule with fear. But fear dies when hope is born, and hope has already found its name, human. The chamber erupted in chaos. Some shouted for extermination. Some shouted for negotiation. The once mighty council was no longer one voice, but two, split like a broken blade. Outside the chamber, the galaxy trembled. Fleets of ships moved uneasily, unsure whether to obey orders. Workers in mines whispered rebellions. Soldiers questioned commands. The humans had not raised an army, but still the council was shaking. The elder walked slowly out of the chamber that day. Alone, he whispered into the cold air. It has begun. The unstoppable truth has broken your walls. Back at the human camp, Arya looked at the wreckage of drones and the bodies of slain predators. She raised her child into her arms and stared at the poisoned sky. They think they can break us, she whispered. But the more they try, the stronger we become. Let them come. Let them try. We are ready. Her people stood behind her, tired, yet unbowed. In their eyes was not fear but resolve. The same resolve that now echoed across distant stars. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were symbols. And symbols cannot be destroyed. The truth revealed. The galaxy was no longer quiet. Whispers had become shouts. Hidden rebellions turned into open defiance. On distant worlds, miners refused their chains. Soldiers refused their orders. Farmers, traders, workers, voices long silenced, now cried out the same word. Humans. The great council chamber shook with the sound of its own chaos. Half the leaders screamed for extermination. The other half shouted for peace. The once mighty unity of the empire had cracked, and through that crack light was pouring. The scaled leader rose, his emerald body blazing with fury. Enough! Crush them before it is too late. Send fleets, burn their colonies, wipe their name from history. But across from him a silver-haired counselor stood with trembling hands. We have tried storms, poison, beasts, warriors. Each time they rise, each time they grow. If we strike again, the galaxy will not see strength. It will see fear. It will see weakness. The chamber fell silent for a moment. All eyes turned to the elder. He stood slowly, leaning on his staff, his old voice carrying across the vast hall. You still do not understand. You think humans are strong because of their weapons, their machines, their survival. But you are wrong. They are strong because they refuse to bow, because no matter how much they suffer, they rise. And when they rise, they inspire others. That is why they are unstoppable. The words hung heavy in the air. Far away on the poisoned world, Arya stood at the center of the human camp. Around her, men and women worked tirelessly. Some built stronger shelters. Some forged weapons from the wreckage of drones. Children carried supplies, their small hands never idle. And then, something new appeared in the sky. A ship, but not a council ship. Its design was strange, its symbols unknown. The humans raised their weapons, preparing to defend themselves. The ship landed with a hiss, and the ramp lowered. From it stepped aliens, dozens of them. Not soldiers, not hunters, but workers, traders, wanderers. They carried food, water, tools. Their eyes were filled not with hate but with hope. One of them, the same blue-skinned worker who had once come alone, stepped forward. He knelt before Arya and placed supplies at her feet. We come not as rulers, not as masters, he said. We come as allies. You have shown us that chains can be broken. You have shown us that fear can end. Let us stand with you. Arya looked at her people. She saw their tired faces, their scarred hands, their fire-lit eyes. She raised her child into her arms and spoke with a voice that carried across the poisoned air. Then stand, not behind us, with us. If they want to fight, they will face not just humans but everyone who has ever dreamed of freedom. The camp erupted with cheers, and across the galaxy, that moment was carried in secret signals and whispered transmissions. The spark had become a fire, and the fire was spreading beyond control. In the council chamber, alarms sounded. Reports poured in from every corner of the empire. Rebellion on the outer moons. Soldiers refusing orders in Sector 9. Entire fleets turning their weapons away. The scaled leader roared in rage. This is your fault, he shouted at the elder. Your prophecy has poisoned them all. But the elder's eyes burned brighter than fire. He lifted his staff high and his voice thundered, No, it was never my prophecy. It was truth. A truth you feared. A truth you could not kill. The humans have not only survived your trials, they have unmade your empire. The chamber shook with panic. Some counselors fled. Others screamed in denial. The once great council, rulers of 1,000 worlds, now trembled like children. Back on the poisoned world, the humans and their new allies worked side by side. They built stronger machines using scraps from the council's own weapons. They shared food, water, and knowledge. The camp was no longer a place of survival. It was a place of beginnings. Arya stood on a high rock, her people gathered below. Her child clung to her hand as she raised her voice. They called us weak. They called us fragile. They laughed when the elders spoke of us. But we have shown them we are more than they ever believed. We are not just survivors. We are not just fighters. We are the spark that burns chains. And we will never be stopped. Her people roared, their voices echoing into the poisoned sky. The elder, far away, closed his eyes and listened to the echoes of rebellion spreading across the galaxy. He whispered to himself, his heart finally at peace. They spoke the truth. Humans are unstoppable. The story that began with laughter ended in silence. Not silence of death, but silence of awe. The council had laughed at humans, but the galaxy no longer laughed. The galaxy now listened, and in the silence the truth was revealed. Humans were not just another race. They were the storm. They were the fire. They were the impossible made real, and nothing could stop them.